so here we are with the 2020 KTM 390 Adventure. This bike is based around the same engine and transmission as that used in the 390 Duke and the RC 390 sport bikes. Now, KTM has traditionally offered its adventure bikes in two flavors, standard and a more off-road oriented R version. You can kind of think of the 390 as a standard. It has cast wheels, 19 inches in the front and 17 in the rear, fairly modest suspension travel, 6.7 inches in the front and 7 in the rear, and ground clearance we measured right at about 7 inches. So this is really a bike that's aimed directly at an entry-level rider or a more advanced rider who's looking for a play bike, just something they can go out and have some fun on. Now, $6,200 though, this is a lot of bike for the money. Standard features include a 5-inch full-color TFT display, adjustable suspension front and rear, lean angle sensitive MTC or traction control, and Bosch cornering ABS. Now, after spending some seat time on this bike, one of the first things I noticed is it doesn't really feel all that small. A big part of the reason for that is the seat. It's pretty wide, it's fairly flat, and it's got these sharp edges. On paper, it doesn't look so bad at 33.6 inches, but when you sit on it, it feels pretty tall. Now, I've got a 34-inch inseam, and as you can see, I'm on my toes. It's even worse if I'm wearing heavy adventure boots, where I can't point my toes at all. But the good news is this is also a featherweight. So our test bike here weighed in at 387 pounds wet, which means that it is super easy to pick up, move around, roll around. So if you do find yourself in one of those parking lot situations where it's a little bit of an incline and you're trying to back up, all you gotta do is hop off, push it around, no problem at all. And one nice thing about this tall seat is all the space you've got between it and the foot peg. Leaves you with a nice relaxed bend in your knees and makes it a lot easier to stand up off-road. All right, so let's take a closer look at this guy, shall we? All right, so one of the coolest trick features about this bike is this nice big full-color TFT display. Now, it does have an ambient light sensor, so because we're indoors, it thinks that it's nighttime. There's not quite enough ambient light, so it has this black background. But usually in daytime riding, this is going to have a white background with black lettering. And as you can see, sort of typical KTM, it's got a lot of good information over here, but it's kind of small, hard to read. But you do have your fuel gauge right here, showing full right now, and speed, nice and big. All of that is controlled over here with a switch gear. Really easy to use, short learning curve. It's also backlit, which is really nice. Front and center, we have a 12-volt cigarette adapter plug. Really nice feature. Fully adjustable forks. You can see the clickers there on the left and right for compression and rebound. And on the rear shock, which is right down here, you have your sort of typical preload adjustment up here with a spanner, and then this right here, that's your rebound adjustment. And as we mentioned before, cast wheels with some fairly road-oriented tires on it. Radiator, it does have kind of a plastic shroud on it, but something that you'd probably want to put something a little bit stronger on if you're going to be doing some serious off-roading. And same with the skid plate. You can see that metal reinforcement there that we had talked about, but otherwise it's plastic. But hey, there's those crash bars that the US market bikes get. It's got a bit of clearance here for any tip overs. You could mount some lights on those, I suppose, if you wanted. Now, when it comes to tail bag mounting options, it's better than some bikes, not as good as others. You do have, some points here where you could put a hook, but back here, you're going to have to get, fairly creative with finding a place to hook a tail bag. So maybe an aftermarket rack or something that would mount here might make a little bit more sense. All right, so let's take a look under the seat. Not much in the way of storage there, but you can see there is a nice toolkit right here. And under here, battery is nice and easily accessible, and most importantly, air filter as well. And last but not least, we often get questions about center stands. We've been looking under here and I just don't really see a good spot to mount a center stand. So I think for the moment there is not one available, but something that the aftermarket might be able to take care of. All right, so as you can see, a lot of bike for the money, whether you be an entry-level rider or an advanced rider. And if you're interested in reading more specs or the full review, you can check it out in the June 2020 issue of Rider Magazine.